Hello and good evening. My name is Dr. Kym Harris, and I have been asked by my friend and colleague, Vicki Wright Hamilton, to join her in this discussion about her new book. I'm old school, so I printed it off, but it is a download. Game Face, the Corporate Success Strategies of a Trailblazing Tech Warrior. So we are going to learn about some of the secrets of this tech warrior and some of the experiences that she's had in her career. So first, I want to congratulate you on getting this book done. I took it with me to Jamaica on my honeymoon, and it was an excellent read. So if you have not downloaded it yet, do so. I also want to let you know that Vicki's going to be giving away 3 30-minute coaching sessions. And so what you'll need to do to become eligible for the drawing is to enter by sharing this Facebook Live using the hashtag GameFacebook and providing comments in the feed below. And we will be identifying winners through a random selection and posting them to Vicki's Facebook page tomorrow at 5. So we'll be repeating this for those who join us late. But I want to jump right into talking with Vicki Wright Hamilton about this excellent book that she has written. So Vicki, I want to start by asking you, what motivated you to write this book and share your story in such an authentic and transparent way?
Well, it's interesting you asked me that. About 9 years ago, my brother was unable to go to work anymore, and he was at home. And he became a business partner of mine, and we started this organization called The Right Answer. Mm-hmm. It was my way of giving back. It was an online mentoring matchmaking application. Mm-hmm. And he did all the data processing, all of the management, all the operations behind the scenes for it. And the more and more we got into it, and the more and more we talked about it, he said, Vicki, you mentor all the time. You have such a story. Mm-hmm. You need to write a book. Yeah. And I said, Tommy, doesn't anybody care about what the heck I got to say in a book? I said, I don't have that much of an interesting life that anybody really wants to hear about my book. Mm-hmm. And he kept saying, no, there has to be something there. If you're mentoring so much, mm-hmm. there has to be something that people want to hear, right, that they're getting from you. Right. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. Well, unfortunately, about 4 years ago, my brother passed unexpectedly. We were extremely close. And I was sitting on in my back porch. He came to visit me, and we were having this conversation about afterlife and moving forward and what we would do. And he said, well, if I come back in afterlife, I'm going to come back as a red cardinal. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I'm going to come back as a dog, because you spoil your dog to death just like my husband does. So I was sitting on the porch one day, and this red cardinal came across, and his spirit was just there. And I could just hear him telling me over and over again I needed to write this book. Mm-hmm. And I said, Tommy, I can't do it. You're not here. Mm-hmm. So I can't write that book right now. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of let it go. Well, my mother came to live with me a little over 5.5 years ago. She was ill, and I was getting her some medical care here in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And after she started turning around, we were sitting at the kitchen table one day, and Tommy, as the cardinal, came by again. And I said, Mama, there's Tommy. And she was like, oh, let's go see and talk to him. So we ran to my window, and we were talking. Mm-hmm. And then she said to me, Vicki, Tommy's right. You need to write this book. Mm-hmm. I said, Mama, you and Tommy both said I need to write a book. Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Mm-hmm. I said, you're writing your book. Mm-hmm. You just go on and write yours. I'm not going to worry about mine. She said, no. You need to write a book. You need to tell your story. Mm-hmm. And she said, I want you to remember one thing. If you don't help one person, you've made a difference.
That's right.
And my mother is living now at 91 years old, still here in my home. Mm-hmm. And I just hope that I've been able to make her proud by writing this book.
Yeah, and I'm sure she is proud. And just like she shares her wisdom with you, you have wisdom to share with others. Because that's what mentors do. So. Yep. And there's a lot of great nuggets in this book. I know, because I've read it from cover to cover. Actually,
well,
twice.
Thank you.
I read the draft and the final version. So it's a great read.
Thank you.
So you take us on a journey that covers the span of your career. And your knack for moving seamlessly from one opportunity to another really speaks volumes to your ability to identify and leverage transferable skills.
Yes.
So what advice would you offer about the best way to identify and continuously remain aware of one's transferable skills?
You know, that's a very interesting question, because when we think about transferable skills, we think about how something is applicable to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one example that I like to use a lot, because as I have spoken to a lot of people, and a lot of women especially, that have gone home to have children, to stay at home, and are beginning to enter the workplace, one of their biggest concerns is, I don't have anything on my resume to be able to talk about how I can go in and do this new job. And the one thing I remind them of is that's not true. Household management is huge. And that's the role you've truly been playing, is household management. You have to think about finance. You have to think about process. How are things going to run in the household? What's going on? How are you going to make sure that objectives are met, that schedules are done, all kinds of things. All of those skills are some of the same foundational skills that you have to use when you go into the workplace. So I think when we begin to think about transferable skills, we got to think outside of the box and stop saying that we have to fit this certain box. Oh, well, I was just a stay-at-home mom. Yeah, but there's a lot that goes into that. So the more you stay in touch with that, the better it is in terms of being able to apply those skill sets. I think the second thing that's important when we think about transferable skills is that when you move from one industry to another, or one job function to another, there are certain things that we do that are standard regardless. And as we do those standard things, those are things that we can apply as we go to something new. So don't ever downgrade your capabilities or your skill sets that you have, because they can be applicable to many, many different things, many different jobs, and you can apply them that way. It's just how you tell the story. And telling that story to the benefit of the organization where you're trying to get an opportunity of using those transferable skills.
And oftentimes the things that come easiest to us, right, are the things that we tend to discount.
Exactly.
And those are strengths and skills that are indeed transferable from one situation to another. So really even thinking in terms of, what are the things that come to me with ease? Right.
And I'd like to think about those things of ease come to you because of your passion.
That's right.
And so if they're your passions, those passions come with ease, and it allows you the ability to really say, I can do this without getting paid, right? Exactly. I can do it because I enjoy it. I can have fun at doing it. And I think that's the important thing about being able to apply that.
Absolutely. Great. So I'm going to take a commercial break for a minute. If you're just joining us, we are talking about Game Face, Corporate Success Strategies of a Trailblazing Tech Warrior. And Vicki is going to be giving away 3 30-minute coaching sessions. To enter the giveaway, you'll simply need to share this Facebook Live using the hashtag GameFacebook and commenting in the feed below. And our winners will be selected tomorrow around 5 and posted to Vicki's Facebook page. So get to entering. So we've talked then about this idea of transferable skills, and I think what that does too is it speaks to the need to really take a strategic approach to one's career. And I know for you, strategy is a core component of everything. You start with strategy, right? And so I'd love to hear you share your thoughts about the importance of being purposeful and strategic when navigating one's career.
So you're absolutely right. I believe strategy is in everything that we do, because there's a purpose of why we do it. And I think that when you begin to look at your career, we talked a little bit ago about looking at your passions and what you're passionate about. And when you are laying out those things, it says, in my life, these are the things I really would like to be able to do. These are the things that really make me happy and bring me joy. These are the things that, I like to get up in the morning and go and do. It's not hard for me. When you're building that and you're looking at that, it's really about taking that strategic approach that says, okay, if this is what I see as my vision, what are the things I have to do in order to get there? What strategic approaches do I have to apply in order to make that happen? Now I'm going to embarrass my sons a little bit, only because we talk about this all the time. And my oldest son, Arthur, when he was younger, that boy would eat, sleep, and drink sports.
Okay.
I mean, wherever you saw him, he was doing his sports.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were sitting at the dinner table one day, and he was talking about, getting ready to go to college and wanted to get into sports management. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And he said, well, I'm not sure exactly, Mom. I know that I like things around sports, but I'm not sure. I said, well, you need to make sure whatever you do in life allows you to watch your sports, do your sports 24 hours a day, because that is your passion and your love.
Right.
And as he began to do that, he began to really sit down and think about, well, when I get my internship, what kind of internship do I want to have? So I can begin to apply a strategy of using that internship to further my career forward. And not only did he start in the strategic area of sports in his internship, he decided to explore what does it mean behind productions, so I can see if that's what I'm interested in. So all of his strategic approaches were really about to understand, where do my competency lie, where I am passionate about what I do.
Right.
Those are the kinds of examples that we all need to do for ourselves as we're looking at our career and looking at what those strategies need to be.
Yeah, and that's real alignment, right? But it requires taking some time to really stop and think about it. And oftentimes we're so busy doing, right? We don't really take the time to stop and think about what are the things that are most aligned with who I am and the things that I've enjoyed in my life, even as a kid, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And taking that time is critical, because if we don't think about where we want to go, we'll just do something just to do it and not think about the ramifications or think about the impacts of how that could have helped us or hurt us.
Yeah, and how many people do you know? I know a lot who are in jobs and been in jobs for years and are miserable.
Absolutely.
Right? Because they didn't take the time
to
really align their interests, their passions with their career.
Absolutely. Yeah. What they did was they got a job and they stuck with the job.
Right.
They didn't really have the career that they wanted. Yeah. And because they didn't take that time to do it.
And that happens when we get nice salaries and
absolutely
and what I call the corporate goodies, right? We get so hung up in that we really lose sight until one day we realize we've not been happy. So
absolutely.
Great nuggets.
Absolutely.
So a common theme of your story is the importance of responding positively to change and staying on course, both at work and in love. So yes, she talks about her love life in this book. Great nuggets. If you haven't downloaded it, download it. So if you could craft a headline for what you want a reader to learn from your experience in this book, Game Face, Corporate Success Strategies of a Trailblazing Tech Warrior, what would the headline be?
Faith and change go hand in hand.
So say more about that. I love the headline. Very powerful. Faith and change go hand in hand. So say more.
So for me, when you're going through change and things are happening, the thing that's hard about change is the unknown. We don't know what we don't know. We're not sure about how that change is going to affect us personally, or the people around us, or who we care about, or things like that. So you have to walk into change with a certain amount of faith that says, I'm going to do the best I can do. I'm going to learn as much as I can learn. I'm going to approach this in a way that is going to be positive, and I will win at it. I will make it through. So that faith gives you that foundation of that positiveness, recognizing the change is all we can count on.
Right.
What we know that's going to happen every day is change.
Right.
It doesn't stay the same.
Right.
And so because of that, my faith throughout my life has been my foundation and my safe haven that has allowed me to be able to accept change and to be able to be adaptable and flexible and understanding that it won't always stay the same.
So it's believing.
Yes.
Right? We were talking about this earlier because sometimes we believe, but we get noise.
Yes.
Right? And the noise takes us off track.
Yes.
Right? And what we were talking about was the fact that nobody's going to believe in your journey, right, your vision for yourself the way you will.
That's right.
And so you can't allow the noise to distract
get in the way.
To get in the way.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, we're going to take a break for a minute, and I'm going to remind you that Vicki is giving away 3 30-minute coaching sessions, and you enter her giveaway by sharing this Facebook Live using the hashtag GameFacebook and commenting in the feed below. And the winners will be selected randomly tomorrow around 5 and posted on Vicki's Facebook page. And again, if you are joining us and have not downloaded it yet, the book is, look at this lovely cover, beautiful picture, Game Face, Corporate Success Strategies of a Trailblazing Tech Warrior. So, Vicki, my next question for you is in chapter 10, which you titled, Will My Real Husband Please Stand? You share the story about finding what I'm saying is true love and the life changes that find required of you, and your career at an organization called Medisolve. I don't know whether that's
they're all make-believe names.
Otherwise known as, right? But your career at this organization was going well, right? And you had to go in and tell the person you reported to and the president of the organization that you were leaving.
Yes.
And they were not happy, right?
That's correct.
Which speaks to the point, which speaks to the importance of really being valued, right? So that says that you were adding value to the organization and they wanted more. They wanted more of that. So my question to you is, what thoughts can you share about the most effective way to leave them wanting more when you voluntarily move from one opportunity to another?
Wow. So let me say that for me, that experience was the first time in my life that I had ever felt like, oh my gosh, what have I done? You know, I had to tell these people that I'm leaving, but I was in love with my husband and excited to start our new life and journey together here in Atlanta. But I will say that in terms of getting value, I think there were several things that the leadership always said to me that was probably the foundation of getting the value and wanting more. And that was, I didn't stay in the silo of my own functional area. I took the time to understand, how does the business work from end to end? What is our business model? How do each of the departments function together? How do they operate together? How do we make things more efficient? So I stepped out of my comfort zone of just my own area to learn more. So then they could utilize, we talked about comparable skills, they could utilize those competencies on special projects, on doing things that were outside of my functional expertise. In fact, the project where I met this Mr. Wright, the love of my life, was a project that was outside of that comfort zone. Where my CIO said to me, this is your job, your responsibility, here's what I expect from you, here's what we're looking to do. And let me tell you, it was a lot of stress and pressure. He had, and here I am going, oh my God, it's a little old me, you want me to be in the driver's seat? But he basically told my husband and the team, you don't make her happy, then we're not happy. Now, of course, we weren't dating at that point, but needless to say, it was one of those situations where I was able to use the skill sets that I had in terms of moving forward. So I think that it's important when you're talking about value is understanding the enterprise of the organization, understanding how the business works in the organization, because at the end of the day, you're there for business. And you're there to help the business make money. That's why we're all in business, right? Is to make that money. And you're there to try to do the best job you can in the most efficient way as you can. And by me taking the time to do things that were not my job, volunteering to help on projects that were someone else's, getting on committees that I didn't have to do, participating in terms of working with other groups to learn more. That's what gave me the ability to be a valuable asset to them, that they were like, wait a minute, you going where? I could put you over here, I can put you over here, I can put you can't leave me.
Utility player, right? You're a utility player.
So that's kind of how that went.
But what that speaks to too is this distinction between being a subject matter or a functional leader versus a business leader.
Yes.
Right? And I think sometimes what happens is people get stuck in the function and realize that and don't realize that in order to grow, they need to have a broader view. So they need to really think of themselves in terms of business leadership and learn more about the business. Right?
Exactly.
To become valuable.
Exactly.
Leave them wanting more.
And they continue to want more and more and more.
Yes, more and more and more. So in chapter 11, you write, I believed it was possible to keep your game face on and do your job while maintaining your humanity. I thought that was a powerful quote. So what does that mean from a leadership perspective?
So as you move from one position to another, and you move up the ladder, there's always times that you're privy to information that you cannot share, right? There's a certain amount of confidentiality as a leader that you're asked to keep to yourself, but you still have to fulfill whatever the obligation is. Now, you know, I have found myself in many positions where I was going to have to enact and do things that was going to impact the organization, and impact the organization as the end result was good, but in terms of the individuals was not so good.
Yeah.
And so the challenge is that how do you continue to keep that confidentiality, exercise that leadership, and then be human at the same time? And I think there are ways to do that. I think that as a leader, you can still treat people with dignity. You know, you can still help move them forward without spilling the beans about what's actually going on. And you do that by many different ways. I think there's lots of different tools and applications that we can use to make that happen. Sometimes it means that you may stretch out on somebody's behalf and work a little harder for them in a different way. You may be a sponsor for them in a totally different organization to help them, or it may be a contact that you make. There are so many different things that we can do, but what that allows us to do is to be human and allows us to show that we can have leadership and to move forward.
You know, those are all good points. So, and the point that I want to make is that while Vicki uses this book to share her story, these nuggets that you're getting from her now are threaded throughout. So you're reading a great story, but you're also learning a lot about leadership, how to show up, how to advance your career, what the relationships need to be in order for you to effectively move forward in your career and be effective in a workplace. So let me remind you, if you've just joined us, Vicki's going to be giving away 3 30-minute coaching sessions. And you enter her giveaway by sharing this Facebook Live using the hashtag GameFacebook and commenting in the feed below. The winners will be selected randomly and will be posted to her Facebook page at 5 o'clock tomorrow evening. And again, the name of the book is, for download, Game Face: Corporate Success Strategies of a Trailblazing Tech Warrior. If you don't know, you better ask Vicki. Download the book. Okay. So, you've taken some risks throughout your career. And actually, as I read the book, you took a lot of risks throughout your career. And I particularly enjoyed the story about how you introduced this concept of this diversity initiative, talking to your CEO, sharing with him that this was something you felt that the organization should do, and you actually sold the CEO on the idea. So how did your game face help you in that situation? And what advice can you share about making use of one's game face when taking risks?
Well, I'll tell you, that game face that day was, okay, how do I show that I'm not nervous, I'm not scared, that I'm not stepping out, intimidated, and walking out into the CEO's office, and he might look at me and go, okay, you're crazy.
Right.
This is actually what happened before I went to go meet with him.
And it's such a sensitive topic too.
Exactly.
So, right.
And with it being so sensitive, but because the industry was talking a lot more about it, I thought, okay, this is my opportunity to seize the moment. Mm-hmm. But I sat in my office literally before I went to go see him, and I had this conversation, and I said, okay,
with yourself,
with myself,
okay,
and I said, okay, Vicki, what's the worst he can say? Okay, he can say no. And so what? What does that mean? And I said, well, he might get a perception about me. He might think some things about me. But what he can't say is that I didn't have the guts to at least bring it forward.
Courage, right?
Yeah. I was able to take that courage and make it happen. So I said, okay, you're going to walk up here with confidence. You've read the book. You know the book. You know the information, and you're not going to let title or prestige or hierarchy intimidate you. You're going to walk in there and you're going to smile, because that's been the game face you've used all your life that has worked. You're going to walk in there and you're going to smile, and you're just going to let him know that you just have an idea. And it's an idea that, you just wanted to share. And if he did not, agree with the idea, that was fine. But you thought that it was something that you could share with him for the betterment of the organization. And I knew I had to say the word organization. It is not about me.
Right.
It is not about what I could do or bring. It was really about how it was going to help the organization, which is what he ultimately cares about, is the organization. Right. So I put that game face on, and I walked in that office, and I said, let's do this. And lo and behold, to my surprise, instantaneously he said, well, I think this is a good idea. Let me read the book, and I'll get back to you. And I knew he was an avid reader. And I said, okay, well, thanks a lot for the time. I know you're busy. And I went on back to my office. Needless to say, that short period of time, when I got that call back that says we're going to do this, I went, you know what? It was worth every bit of that risk.
Right.
And what I will say is that I took risks throughout my career, but I took calculated risks. Because going back to some of the questions you asked before, I think about the strategy, what and the impacts and what can happen, and what strategy I was going to use. And guess what? My game face matched my strategy. Right? I put on the right game face for the right strategy that I needed at that moment in terms of being able to move forward. So I will tell you, taking risk is not a bad thing. It's about the kind of risk you take and understanding the implications of that risk and setting yourself up for the best possible outcome. So even if it didn't work, okay, what can you take from the lessons that you learned? People say, oh, I just failed. I look at failure as a first attempt in learning.
That's right.
We didn't fail. It was a first attempt in learning.
That's right.
And as we're doing that, you have the opportunity to really say, okay, I did that. It didn't work, but I learned a lot. So now I have more tools for my toolbox, for that career toolbox, that skill set toolbox to be able to apply somewhere else. So I think that game face of risk really is managing that strategy and the ability to understand those implications.
So how are game face and confidence related?
That's interesting. So our game face is really about the type of face we have to put on. Our confidence has to be the foundation when we put that game face on.
So to know that you
can pull it off, that you can do it. Because when you put that face on, whether it's at home, whether it's at work, no matter what it is, you have to believe and have that confidence. I can go through with this. I can make this happen. I can continue to move forward. Because without it, people can see through it. The whole point about the game face is that people don't know you have a game face on. Right? So they believe that you believe it. So you have to have that confidence with it.
It's like what do cosmetic surgeons say? Their best work is the work you can't see.
See, exactly, exactly.
Okay, so you've had experiences both as a young girl, a young woman, and a seasoned executive that sometimes left you questioning your value, your own personal value and capabilities. How does your game face, or how has your game face helped or hindered your self-confidence?
So, I will say that, through those points where I was at my lowest, when I wasn't where I needed to be, I think by the time I put my game face on, I was building that confidence to be able to move forward. However, the steps to getting there is very different. I think that the process that we go through in determining how we're going to wear this game face and how we're going to respond and the things that we're going to do is very individualized for each person. Whatever brings you back to being centered is what you need. All of us have something different. For me, my centering was my prayer closet, because I knew that whether I had to wear game face at work or I was in those relationships where I had to wear that game face at home, I had to have that place that I could release and go to, that I knew I could let my hair down and be me. And for me, that was between me and my God. So that was my prayer closet. In terms of location, the places that give me the most about my ability to have that centeredness is the ocean. When I go to the ocean, and the peace and being able to walk and pray and talk just gives me something I can't even begin to explain, but I can be me. I can let it all out. So I think these are things that are very important as you begin to think about wearing that game face and moving forward. Because when you have to go to work and wear a game face, and forbid you have to come home and wear a game face, you don't have that safe haven. You need that place you can say, I just need to let it out, right? I just need to be able to let it go.
So you don't lose yourself.
So you don't lose that. And you continue with that confidence to be able to move forward. So I think it's the process we go through as we're making that happen.
Great, thank you. So in chapters 15 and 16, you write about the challenges of entrepreneurship, the stress of caring for your parents and other family members, as you mentioned to us in the opening, the loss of your brother Tommy, and self-care. And you wrote this: I found myself wearing my game face as I found myself wearing my game face as I tried to let everyone around me think I was okay. I was exhausted, and I kept wondering if I would make it through. I finally had to trust and believe God didn't give me any more than I could handle. It sure was easier said than done, though. This is the question. Is there ever a time when transparency and authenticity trump the idea of putting on one's game face?
So, I think that the authenticity and not having to wear that game face actually ties back into what I was speaking about previously, of having that confidant, that person, the person that you can really be yourself with, then you can be authentic. You can let that game face down and be who you are. The challenge is when you don't have that place or that person, and then you can't do that. It's very hard to really let that go. It's very hard to really understand and recognize what that means. So I do believe that, throughout our lives, both personally and professionally, as we go through our journey and the challenges occur, that we'll have periods of time where we feel like we can let it all out, and we'll have periods of time where it's like, okay, this is built up inside of me, but how do I deal? How do I make it happen? And then going back to find that safe place again, getting grounded again to allow you to rebuild is what helps you make it through.
So that suggests the importance of relationships,
Yes.
right? Solid, authentic, and genuine relationships.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that, because sometimes I think we get so caught up in the work stuff, and then you come home and the home stuff, and it's just getting it all done, right? And we lose sight of those relationships that give us what you're speaking to, that give us the energy and that revive us and uplift us. So what's your suggestion for how to ensure that we make time?
Well, you know, it's interesting you talk about making time, because I think that, you know, people make time for what's important to them throughout their journey or whatever's happening at that point in time. And during the periods where we lose touch, where we're not talking to friends, or we're not talking to people that we need, you know, that we had relationships with, or that we want to bond with, then there's an emptiness. There's something that's missing that we're trying to fill. And I believe that it's really important that during those, you know, that you keep connections, however small they may be, so that you don't ever completely lose it. I'll give you an example. Every morning when I get up, and I go to my LinkedIn pages or I go to my Facebook pages, I'm looking for those things that's going to continue my connection, whether it's a birthday, whether it's an anniversary, whether it's some happy occasion, so I can keep the connection going. Now, a connection is only the beginning of a relationship, but if I already have the relationship, then I'm nurturing it.
Right.
I'm able to continue to nurture it so I don't lose it.
That's right.
And so I think that we have to deliberately set time aside. And that's part of, and I'm going to say it again, strategy, that life strategy. So, you know, at the beginning of every year, when my husband and I sit down and talk about what do we want for our family and our life and for that next coming year, what's important to you, what's important to me, what do we want to accomplish together. The things that also get talked about is, okay, what guys trips do you need to take? What girls trips do you need to take? Who do you need to see? What is it that you need? So that we don't lose sight of that. Because if we're not purposeful about including it in what we need to discuss and plan and make happen, life takes over and it doesn't occur.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself with the loss of a relationship that you once cherished and had the ability to let go of, right? I have a very, very, very dear friend that is like a sister to me. And growing up, and she lived with me. And it's to the point that we don't have to talk every day. We don't have to talk every week. But it might be once a month, once every other month. But when that phone rings, we know the other one's going to answer. And we're going to make time to have that conversation.
Right.
That's intentional.
Right.
So those things of being intentional become important. And when I was learning about self-care, of dealing with not only those relationships, but also the self-care for me. I will tell you that self-care doesn't become any more evident than when you're a caregiver and taking care of your parents, knowing their DNA is my DNA. Have I waited too long to deal with myself and my body and deal with the things that are part of me that I can't change? You know, because of my age, did I wait too long to do that? Because the reality is we should be thinking about that many years ago, right? But am I waiting too long to do that? So now, because I'm in this situation, it's prominent, front mind, that I know I got to make time for that. And so now it becomes, there is no exception. There are some things that I just won't give up. And part of that self-care is something I'm not going to give up. So I think it's all purposeful. But you have to, it's not easy, but we have to hold ourselves accountable for it.
Tips from a tech warrior, y'all. Y'all better listen. So you share in the book that you've learned to give yourself, and you just shared just now, the love and self-care you deserve. How do you reconcile your need for self-care with your capacity to show your game face at a moment's notice? Can the two coexist?
Yes, they can coexist. But what I can say is that it's not always easy. There are times when, trying to do both and make it happen, I have to put on different game faces, right? In order to make that work. And knowing that deep down inside I'm feeling one way, but I'm putting that game face on in order to be able to survive and to get through. And all I can say is that it takes me back to the place where I can get grounded again. Because there are times when it can become too much. There are times when it's like, okay, I really need to go and get grounded and get what I need for me. I think 15 minutes. I need 20 minutes. But it's that time that you take for yourself to be able to do it. So yes, they can coexist, but it's not easy.
Not easy.
That's right.
So y'all, you are listening to a conversation with the tech warrior, game face, corporate success strategies of a trailblazing tech warrior. I'm going to check with our timekeeper to see if we have more time or if we should stop here, but we've got about 5 more minutes and I've got more questions. So, over the course of your career, and we just touched on this a little bit, Vicki, you've done your share of winning people over. And as I read through the book, you shared different stories of people that you acquired on your team, or you joined a team and someone was already there, and that these people weren't very happy about you and your presence, right? And what you had to do to win them over, and you did that so skillfully. My question is, what do you believe are the most fundamental needs of people when it comes to building loyal and trusting professional relationships? And I'm thinking about Lisa, who you had to win over, and then you ended up hiring when you went somewhere else, right? So that said, my goodness, she really did a lot to nurture that relationship to the point where this woman would leave one organization to join her in another. And it had a very rocky start.
Yes.
So what do you think are some of the fundamental needs of people when it comes to building loyalty and commitment to professional relationships?
So one of the things that I learned very early in my career is that as individuals, we all have desires, we all have an ego, and we all have a want. And the more that we have the empathy and the understanding of what it means to walk in someone else's shoes, or what they need, or what's in it for them, the easier it is to begin to build that relationship. And when things start off rocky, they may start off rocky because there's a misunderstanding, there's fear, there's concern about what's going to happen to me versus why are you here, which is why they didn't want me there. Does that mean I'm going to get less? But it's because of how they're feeling and of the unknown. It's a change and it's the unknown. So I think the things you have to do when you get into situations of building those kinds of bridges and understanding is to let them know that you can relate to where they are, finding that common ground, understanding that when you are able to do something to help them, they begin to see you in a different light and turn that table. They begin to understand that, oh, wait a minute, she's not here to hurt me. She's really here to help me. She really cares about me. And then you begin to build a further authentic, close relationship that after a while, before you know it, it's like, oh my gosh, how do we go from there to here?
Right, exactly.
We have truly made a difference. But it's when you're able to relate to where they are and why. Because people don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, I'm just going to be a witch today. That's not what happens. People don't wake up and say, I'm going to be mad at somebody, or I'm not going to do something well. That's not what happens. What actually happens is that people say, I want to accomplish something. I want to do something. I want to make sure that they're not in my way of getting what I need for me. What's in it for me? And when you're able to help show that that's not the case, that you're not there to hinder or to hurt, or that you're not there to cause them any pain, and that you're going to be supportive, you turn that relationship from something that was negative of facing towards them to being something very positive and powerful.
Yeah, and I think something that's implied in your message, but you don't say it, is that what you have to realize is that it's not about you.
It's not.
Right?
It's not.
It's not about you, but you really need to kind of meet that person
where they are.
Put yourself in their shoes, as you said, empathize with them, and find out what they need.
That's
right?
correct.
And I think that was a great nugget in your story.
Yes, it's truly not about you.
Yeah. So, as a reminder, this has been a great conversation.
Well, thank you.
Vicki is giving away 3 30-minute coaching sessions, and you can enter her giveaway by sharing this feedback live using the hashtag GameFacebook and providing comments in the feed below. And the winners will be selected randomly and posted to Vicki's Facebook page tomorrow around 5. If you have not downloaded this book, please go to Amazon.com and do so now and share it with your friends. Game Face: Corporate Success Strategies of a Trailblazing Tech Warrior. Vicki, I want to thank you so much for sharing this experience with me and allowing me to introduce you and your book to your Facebook community and the rest of the world. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kym Harris Lee. And I really appreciate your time, and I've enjoyed the conversation. And I hope that each one of you not only will download the book, but will take the time to learn your game face and enjoy the opportunities that come with that. See you soon. Take care.
Great conversation.